Live streaming of SDR news coverage at HP Discover has been made possible by Intel Corporation. Check out Intel OpenPort.IT, where you can connect with your peers at Intel on industry topics, best practices, strategies, and more. And by Microsoft, where HP and Microsoft are working together, combining their respective strengths to deliver innovative technologies to help advance your business.
Hey, we're doing our wrap-up here for HP Discover Las Vegas 2013. I'm Andy McCaskey from SDR News, and I've got two bloggers who have been kind of my colleagues here for the past 2.5 days. First, to my immediate left, Chris Evans, who's come from the UK in order to participate in this. And to his left, we have Justin Vashist, and he has come all the way from New York City, as they say. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you.
Good to see you in person.
So much discussion about storage at this HP Discover. And Chris, what's in the storage world? What's the most striking thing that you saw?
Well, probably the biggest announcement was the release of a new version of the 3PAR platform. Previously, we saw the 7400, which was an entry-level model. What they've done now is they've brought out the 7450, which is an all-solid-state device. But it's been specially tuned for solid-state, so it gives over 500,000 IOPS, less than 0.7 milliseconds, a really, really fast device.
Yeah, well, and I think speed is one of the major features that you have, and Justin, in your world, that's absolutely crucial. Tell us about the types of industries that you work in.
Yep. So we specialize in financial services firms. We deal with a lot of hedge funds, private equity, trading firms that need the fastest array possible. Milliseconds count in this industry, and that's some of the biggest things. We also deal with service providers, companies that are hosting virtual desktops, cloud environments, and the general consensus is we need the absolute fastest storage around with the most resiliency as possible. Now, a lot of the firms that we deal with are 70, 100 users, but their compute power can equal an enterprise type of 10,000 user company. So very excited to hear about this flash array hitting the market.
From your industry perspective, did HP hit the mark?
I think they really did. One of the biggest things was the architecture was there. 3PAR has that unique architecture, the mixed workload capability, the quad controllers. I think a lot of people underestimate the option to have those 4 controllers to protect your data, to protect your cache. If you notice, many of the startups right now, and flash is very big in the market, a lot of our clients are saying, well, I'm hearing about flash, I'm hearing about SSDs, what can it do for me, all right? How can it make my risk jobs? How can it make my P&L, my trading systems a lot faster? So I think this is going to be very huge. HP hit the mark. They optimized their operating system on the 3PAR, and I think it's going to be a huge success for my industry.
Do you agree, or do you have some reservations?
So that's a good point. The optimization thing is really critical, because if you look at the devices that are out in the market today that have started off by just putting flash into a traditional array, they didn't optimize, they didn't change the code, they didn't do add additional hardware. 3PAR have done that. This box has got uprated CPUs, more memory, the code has been tweaked. They've written the code so that it specifically caters for some of the things that a hard drive would have a problem with. That makes hard drives quirky, where solid state do it very differently. So they've worked really hard to change the code to optimize it, and that makes a big difference. We know that the traditional 7400 did something like 300,000 IOPS before modification. They boosted that to 554, so you can see there's a huge benefit in actually putting that work in.
And that's in a 4U unit.
It is in a 4U unit, yeah, it's true.
Does anybody else come close?
Well, to be fair, there are other competitors. There are people like Whiptail, Violin, and EMC obviously have got a product that's coming out imminently with Extreme IO, and they're all sort of in a similar benchmark. But I think we touched on it earlier. I think you mentioned the fact that there's a resilience and there's a feature set within these devices, and that's the big difference. The 3PAR have looked to take what is an already existing product with a lot of resiliency built in and add that extra flash functionality.
So a lot of your clients, people you talk with in Europe, is speed essential in other industries as well?
one of the things that people look at for speed is it's an opportunity basically to not have to rewrite code. So if you've got an application you know is not running as fast as you'd like it to run, putting in a solid state device may well be a cheaper solution than rewriting that code. And that is a great option for getting past an existing problem. Now clearly there are other applications where you want dedicated speed, and you've mentioned some of those already, but I think those are the two things you see people doing it for.
Yeah. So Justin, did you see anything else that really attracted your attention in the storage world?
Well, I really like the fact that with the 3-part architecture built in, you are using all the drives evenly. So one of the biggest concerns with flash media in general is, well, with the traditional setups of disk pools and RAID groups, you may be putting a much heavier load on a set of spindles on the right side of the array and a much less workload on another subset of spindles. So you can see this directly in the GUI. In 3-part in general, all of your drives, and I'm going to be putting up a video about this, all of the drives are evenly balanced. It has a wear gauge in the GUI, so you know exactly where you stand as far as life of the drives. I like that they come with a 3-year warranty with an option of single and multi-cell. And like I said, it's great to have all that information. It's not guesswork, and you know exactly where your array stands. So evenly working all the drives, I think, is a huge industry innovation.
Yeah. So Chris, you also spoke about the VSA device.
Yeah, so previously we've seen release of virtual storage appliances, VSAs, for the Store Virtual product, and that's why it's called Store Virtual now. You can basically deploy a VSA that looks like a storage array. So you just buy a server, buy a disk, put it in.
This is a deduper, right?
So that was the original one that they had. What they've done is they've now taken that step further, and they've released a VSA for Store Once. Store Once is the product which does dedupe, so you could use it as an archive platform. But now you've got a VSA for that as well. So you can build a virtual environment where you've now got all of these different storage appliances built into your virtual environment. You don't have to go and buy those as separate devices.
Justin, what did you see in this particular device?
Well, I wanted to definitely touch on the MSA, because here, speaking with all the bloggers and my colleagues, the MSA has not drawn a lot of attention in the past couple of years. People have kind of looked over it as too entry level, not enough feature sets, can't handle the demand and workloads that are present. But I was very, very impressed with the MSA 2040. I think it's a great device. If you look at it, it looks pretty much like a 7000 chassis wise. I think it's great. You get 2 controllers. You have the 2.5-inch small form factor drives, fiber or iSCSI. And one of the biggest things I saw was that is the first device in HP's portfolio to support 16 gigabyte fiber, which is pretty amazing for an $11,000 entry point device. I really think people are going to start looking at MSA more, because it definitely has the attention. That's one thing that I've heard across the lines is, wow, did you see that new MSA device? Very exciting.
Yeah. So those were the top 2 contenders. Any runner-ups?
I think I'll just go back to the VSA side of things. They've obviously looked at that from the other side, that the Store Virtual appliance, which is already out there. I think that side of it is going to be really interesting going forward, because we're seeing an evolution in the use of that technology to give people opportunities in branch locations, rather than necessarily have to buy and deploy big storage arrays. So I think we'll see more from that. I think we should keep an eye on that. It'll be an interesting evolution.
Excellent. Well, Jens, thanks for coming by and giving a little bit of perspective on the storage side of things. Justin, go ahead. Here's your chance to be blatantly commercial and tell people about your blog.
Yep, so my blog is 3cvguy.com. It's a lot of 3-part stuff, obviously, but we blog about all things in the converged infrastructure and the next generation data center. So you'll see primary topics are 3-part, HP blades, and VMware in general, but we're looking across the gamut at all the latest and greatest technologies in the next generation data center.
On Twitter as well?
Twitter is at 3cvguy.
At 3cvguy.
Yes.
Excellent. Chris?
Yeah, Architecting.IT, which is not an Italian domain, it just happens to make it sound good. And I tended to cover a lot of storage, but I've sort of expanded out slightly into other things as well. And you can find me at Chris M. Evans on Twitter.
Excellent. Gents, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks to you folks for joining us as well. I'm Andy McCaskey from SDR News, AXMC, and thanks for joining us in our coverage here at HP Discover.